Now, let's uncover our business segment for you now, though. Of course, what a surprise. We're going back to the political uncertainty here in France, its effects on public finances and the economy, aren't we, Charles?
That's right, Stuart. With the vote that took place on Monday, France's Prime Minister François Bayrou gambled his position on his ability to pass a budget for 2026 that included 44 billion euros in spending cuts and would have brought the deficit to 4.6% of GDP. He has now lost this gamble, and this adds a huge amount of uncertainty as to what public finances are going to look like for next year with such a divided parliament. And the trajectory of public finances in the eurozone's second biggest economy does not look good. In 2022, the energy crisis in the wake of the war in Ukraine had bumped up France's debt pile to 114.4% of its economic output, way above the European target of 60%. That figure dropped slightly in 2023 and early 2024, but drove up again after Macron dissolved parliament in the summer of 2024. By the end of the first quarter of this year, it was almost back at that 2022 level, 114%. Germany, as you can see, meanwhile, in spite of stammering economic growth, has reduced its debt pile from 66.7% in 2022 to 62.3% at the beginning of this year.
So what happens now then? What next for public finances here?
Well, the discussions over next year's budget will be prolonged until some sort of consensus and a new government is found. When things run smoothly and according to the usual calendar, that budget should be submitted to Parliament in the fall. But in the current circumstances, the real deadline is the end of the year.
So knowing how things are going then, Charles, what on earth happens if no agreement is found by the end of the year?
Well, last year, in the same situation, when the Barnier government collapsed over its inability to find a consensus on the 2025 budget, the 2024 budget had been automatically reapplied for the following year, while the country's political forces hammered out a deal under the stewardship of the then new Prime Minister François Bayrou. It gets really complicated. And that was approved by the Senate on February 6th, over a month after the deadline. But reapplying the same budget as this year in 2026 could be very damaging, according to a note written by France's finance ministry and published in France's business daily Les Echos. That would lead to spending increasing by 51 billion euros next year, while state revenue would only increase by 26 billion euros. This would mean the deficit would grow to 6.1% of GDP in 2026, when it's expected to reach 5.4% this year. The unpopular Bayrou plan would have brought that number down to 4.6%. And the European target for public deficits is 3%. So the pressure is on for France's political forces to come up with any plan at all. According to that same note, France's Socialist Party budget plan, with its tax on the ultra-wealthy, would keep the deficit stable from this year to next.
I followed it. Hopefully you did as well. What about the markets then, Charles? What's the situation there?
Well, the political turmoil and its effects on the economy had been priced in by the stock markets already. We'd known this vote was coming 15 days ago. So we're seeing the CAC 40 opening higher this Tuesday, up just short of 0.2%. Let's also look at the yield on France's long-term bonds. Those are currently rising, as you can see, and are at levels that haven't been seen since 2009, during the very beginning of the euro area debt crisis. You remember the situation in Greece, and this means it's more expensive for France to pay back its debts. As a reminder, a rising yield means investors believe it's a riskier bet to buy French debt, and as such, France has to pay a higher premium.
Yeah, more on that to come on the press review in just a moment. Let's talk about something completely different first of all. Norwegian Labour Party claiming victory in the country's latest general election there.
It was a slim but clear victory for Norway's centre-left bloc in a vote that saw also the right-wing populist Progress Party notch its best-ever national result. One of the top campaign issues in the lead-up to that vote was the country's wealth tax, in place since the late 19th century. It's become a point of debate between those who want to continue to reduce inequality in one of the world's richest nations and those who say the tax is a drag on the economy. Also, a big debate here in France on the left side of the spectrum. Brian Quinn has the details.
At a victory celebration for Norway's Labour Party in Oslo, a buoyant mood Monday night. Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre holding on to his office, and with it, Labour's economic policies aimed at reducing inequality.
A lot of the Norwegian people have said that they would like 4 new years with prioritizing the money on the people that needs it most and not the people that have the most.
Among those policies, the country's long-standing wealth tax. Dating back to 1892, it charges 1.1% on assets worth more than 176 million kroner, roughly 150,000 euros. In the run-up to Monday's vote, Norway's centre-right Conservative Party argued for reducing the wealth tax. The right-wing populist Progress Party wanted to abolish it altogether, arguing that it stifles entrepreneurship.
Some of the Norwegians that are really creating a lot of jobs are successful businessmen. They are moving to Switzerland, to Sweden, and this is not sustainable for Norway.
After Labour removed some exemptions in 2022, dozens of billionaires and multimillionaires did move abroad, moves many Norwegians considered a betrayal of social responsibility and the country's egalitarian spirit. Labour says that getting rid of the tax would have cost public coffers some 2.9 billion euros per year. Popular Finance Minister Jens Stoltenberg arguing that its abolition would allow the wealthiest Norwegians to pay almost nothing. Norway is one of the world's richest nations, thanks in large part to its massive oil and gas reserves. Along with Spain and Switzerland, it's one of just 3 European nations to have a wealth tax.
Charles, thanks very much. Charles Pellegrin with Business on France 24. Straight to the